Story of Saltanat-e-Usmania. Part 1. The Dawn of a Sultanate. The wind sweeps across the vast plains of Anatolia. The year is 1299, a time when the old powers are fading and new dreams are being born. The Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, once mighty, has fractured under Mongol pressure. The Byzantine Empire still stands in the west, but its glory is a shadow of the past. In this turbulent land between east and west, a small spark is about to ignite a fire that will burn for over 6 centuries. Visual suggestion: soft sepia animation of medieval Anatolia, nomadic tents, and a lone rider on horseback. The birth of Osman's dream. In a humble Anatolian beylik, ruled by a man named Ertugrul Gazi, his young son Osman is being shaped by the harsh realities of war and survival. Osman is not born into vast wealth or sprawling cities. He is born into a world where tribes fight for grazing land, caravans seek safe passage, and enemies lie on every border. From his father, Osman inherits not just leadership, but vision, the belief that a just ruler must protect his people like a shepherd guards his flock. He also inherits the Ghazi spirit, the idea that warriors fight not just for land, but for faith, honor, and the spread of justice. The Tree Dream. One night, Osman has a dream. A wise scholar, Sheikh Bali, welcomes him to his home. In the dream, Osman sees a full moon rise from a Debalai's chest, then sink into his own heart. From Osman's chest grows a mighty tree whose branches stretch across the world, shading continents and seas. Bali interprets the dream. You will be the father of a great empire, Osman. It will grow vast, bringing shade and justice to many nations. This dream becomes the spiritual foundation of Osman's mission. Visual suggestion: soft glowing animation of a tree expanding across a map, crescent moon above it. A small beylik, big ambitions. Osman inherits leadership of the small Sagat beylik. On maps, it's just a dot, but Osman sees it differently. It is a seed. Surrounded by rivals, the crumbling Byzantines to the west, Mongol influence to the east, Osman knows survival means strength, unity, and vision. He builds alliances with neighboring Turkish tribes, uniting them under common goals. His leadership is marked by fairness. Captured enemies are treated with dignity, trade routes are protected, and disputes are settled with justice rather than greed. First steps of conquest. The early Ottoman warriors, light cavalry armed with bows and curved sabers, move swiftly and strike with precision. Osman captures key Byzantine forts like Kalaka Hisar. These victories are small in size but large in symbolism. Each one expands his people's safety and strengthens his reputation. The warriors are motivated not only by loot or glory, but by faith and loyalty. The banner they ride under carries the crescent, symbolizing unity under Islam. Visual suggestion: a column of horsemen riding across hills, crescent banners fluttering, silhouettes against the dawn. The spirit of justice. Unlike many warlords of the age, Osman enforces rules for fair taxation, forbids unnecessary cruelty, and encourages settlement in conquered lands. Markets grow busier. Travelers find protection, and the beylik slowly transforms from a nomadic warband into a structured, thriving state. His open-door policy toward scholars, artisans, and merchants begins to attract talent from across the region. Even Christian subjects, weary of Byzantine instability, find more stability under Ottoman rule. The Ghazi tradition. In Ottoman culture, the title Ghazi is an honor for those who fight in the path of justice and faith. Osman and his warriors wear this title proudly. The Ghazi ethos becomes part of the state's identity, to expand not only territory, but also the reach of law, fairness, and protection for the oppressed. A leader of faith and strategy. Osman is both a man of the sword and of the heart. He consults with religious leaders before major decisions, seeking moral clarity. His military strategies rely on mobility, surprise attacks, and psychological advantage, understanding that a battle can often be won before it begins, through positioning and alliances. His relationship with Sheikh Bali becomes legendary. Bali offers counsel, reminding him, Osman, from now on anger is forbidden to you. For a ruler, anger is poison, patience is armor. Only through justice can a kingdom survive. These words echo through Ottoman governance for generations, foreshadowing the rise. By the end of Osman's life, the Ottoman Beylik has grown far beyond its humble start. Villages, forts, and trade routes are now under his control. His warriors have tasted victory against larger forces. His people have tasted the benefits of stable leadership. Yet, Osman knows his work is only the beginning. He passes leadership to his son, Orhan Gazi, with a vision, not of personal power, but of a lasting state built on justice, unity, and faith. Closing narration. In the hills of Anatolia, the seed has been planted. The dream of a tree that will shade the world has begun to take root. From this small Beylik, the Saltanat-e-Usmania, the Ottoman Empire, will rise, enduring for over 6 centuries. But before the golden days of glory, there will be battles, struggles, and choices that will shape the fate of nations. Visual suggestion: fade-out shot of Osman's silhouette against a red-gold sunset, crescent flag waving in the wind. Section 2. The Golden Expansion. The year is 1326. The torch passed from Osman I now burns in the hands of his son, Orhan Gazi. What began as a small Anatolian Beylik is about to grow into a kingdom that will dominate 3 continents. Orhan Gazi, the builder of foundations. Orhan is not just a warrior, he is an organizer. Under his rule, the Ottoman state begins to take a permanent shape. A standing army is formed, the early steps toward the Janissaries. The capital is moved to Bursa, transforming it into a center of trade and culture. Laws are formalized, taxes are standardized. The Ottoman strength is no longer only on horseback. Now it lies in administration, trade, and diplomacy. Murad I and the gates of Europe. After Orhan, Murad I takes command. His eyes turn toward Europe. The Byzantine Empire is weak, Balkan states are divided, and the Ottomans move swiftly. Murad crosses the Dardanelles, establishing a foothold in Thrace. In 1389, at the Battle of Kosovo, Ottoman forces clash with a coalition of Balkan princes. The battle is bloody and Murad falls, but his victory cements Ottoman presence in Europe forever. Visual suggestion: silhouettes of cavalry clashing, storm clouds overhead, slow-motion sword strikes. A visionary sultan, Mehmed II, the Conqueror. The year 1451 brings a new leader, Sultan Mehmed II, just 19 years old. From the moment he takes the throne, he has one goal: to take Constantinople. The city is the jewel of the world, bridging Europe and Asia, and has withstood over 1,000 years of sieges. Mehmed plans meticulously. He builds the massive Rumeli Hizari fortress to cut off aid to the city. He commissions giant cannons capable of shattering the legendary walls. His navy blocks the Golden Horn. 1453. The fall of Constantinople. Dawn, May 29th. Ottoman cannons roar, shaking the earth. The Byzantine defenders fight valiantly, but after 53 days, the walls are breached. Mehmed enters the city, not as a destroyer, but as a ruler. He orders protection for its Christian citizens and converts Hagia Sophia into a mosque, a symbol of the new capital, Istanbul. The fall of Constantinople is not just a victory, it marks the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of a new era. Visual suggestion: golden sunrise over the city skyline, crescent flag rising on Hagia Sophia. Suleiman the Magnificent, peak of power. Almost a century later, the empire reaches its height under Suleiman I, 1520 to 1566, known in the Islamic world as Kanuni, the lawgiver. Under his reign, the empire stretches from Hungary to Yemen, Algeria to Iraq. He reforms the legal system, blending Sharia and imperial law. Arts and architecture flourish under his patronage. A cultural renaissance. This is the golden age of Ottoman culture. Mimar Sinan, the master architect, builds breathtaking mosques like the Suleimani Mosque and the Selimai Mosque. Calligraphy, poetry, and music reach new heights. Istanbul becomes the cultural heart of the Islamic world. The Janissaries, elite of the empire. Formed from the Devshirme system, Christian boys trained from youth. The Janissaries are disciplined, loyal, and unmatched in battle. They use advanced firearms, march in perfect formation, and act as the Sultan's personal guard. On land and sea, Ottoman forces dominate. Their navy rules the eastern Mediterranean, challenging the Venetians, Spanish, and Portuguese. Visual suggestion: close-up of Janissary uniforms, tall white hats, marching with rhythm. Trade, wealth, and diplomacy. The empire controls key trade routes between east and west. Caravans loaded with silk, spices, and jewels flow through Ottoman lands. Diplomatic envoys from Europe arrive in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, awed by its splendor, marble courtyards, golden domes, and lush gardens. Unity and diversity. The Ottoman state is a mosaic of peoples: Turks, Arabs, Kurds, Greeks, Armenians, Serbs, and Jews, living under the millet system, which allows each community to govern its own religious and cultural affairs. This policy of tolerance, within imperial law, helps maintain stability across vast, diverse territories. Closing scene of Section 2. By the mid-16th century, the Saltanat-e-Usmania is at its zenith, a superpower in every sense: militarily invincible, economically prosperous, culturally brilliant. Its banners wave from the gates of Vienna to the deserts of Arabia, from the coasts of North Africa to the mountains of the Caucasus. But as history always reminds us, no empire stays at its peak forever. In the shadows of greatness, seeds of decline begin to take root. Visual suggestion: slow zoom out from a bustling Istanbul market to a world map showing the vast Ottoman Empire glowing in gold. The 17th century dawns. The Saltanat-e-Usmania still stretches across vast lands. Its mosques glitter under the sun. Its markets overflow with riches. But in the quiet halls of Topkapi Palace, whispers of discontent stir. The crescent that once rose with unstoppable force now begins to face the weight of its own greatness. Visual suggestion: fading golden map of the empire, shadows slowly creeping in from the edges. Overexpansion. The empire too large to hold. 4 generations, the Ottomans expanded without pause. But now, the borders are too vast to govern efficiently. From the mountains of Hungary to the deserts of Arabia, it takes months for orders to travel, and by the time they arrive, events have already changed. Frontier governors begin to act independently, some even defying orders from Istanbul. The unity that Osman and his successors fought to protect begins to fracture. The seeds of corruption. Where once sultans were chosen for their ability and trained for years in the art of rule, palace politics now decide the throne. Intrigue becomes a dangerous game. Ambitious viziers, rival princes, and even the harem exert influence over decisions. Positions once earned through merit are now bought with gold or secured by favoritism. The Janissaries, once the empire's elite soldiers, grow complacent. They demand privileges, resist reforms, and sometimes even rebel against the sultan they swore to protect. Rising rivals in the West. Across Europe, change is brewing. Spain, Portugal, and later Britain and the Netherlands rise as global maritime powers. New sea routes to Asia bypass Ottoman-controlled land trade, draining wealth from the empire. The once bustling caravan routes grow quieter, and European ships dominate the oceans. At the same time, the Austrians and Russians grow bolder, pushing against Ottoman borders in the Balkans and the Black Sea. Technological stagnation. While Europe embraces the scientific revolution, printing presses, and industrial innovations, the empire hesitates. Fear of foreign ideas and over-reliance on old methods leave the Ottomans behind in artillery, naval technology, and administration. Battles that once ended in swift Ottoman victory now drag into costly stalemates or outright defeats. Wars and losses. The late 17th century brings a symbolic turning point: the Battle of Vienna, 1683. The Ottomans lay siege to the city, dreaming of pushing deeper into Europe. But a united European coalition breaks the siege, forcing the Ottomans into retreat. What follows is the Treaty of Karlowitz, 1699. For the first time in centuries, the empire cedes significant European territories. It is a psychological blow. The world now sees the once invincible empire as vulnerable. Visual suggestion: snow-covered battlefield, retreating Ottoman cavalry, a torn crescent banner dragging in the wind. Economic strains. Without control of global trade, the treasury suffers. Wars cost more, armies demand higher pay, and corruption siphons wealth from the state. Inflation rises, markets grow unstable, and heavy taxation breeds resentment among peasants and merchants alike. The Janissary problem. The Janissaries, once the empire's most feared force, become a political faction, interfering in state affairs. They resist modernization, fearing the loss of their traditional privileges. More than once, they overthrow a sultan or force him to abandon reforms. This once proud corps of disciplined warriors now becomes a symbol of the empire's internal decay. Cultural resilience amid decline. Yet, even as the empire weakens politically and militarily, its culture remains rich. Poets still write verses of love and faith. Architects still raise domes to the heavens. Scholars preserve centuries of Islamic knowledge. In Istanbul's coffee houses, debates on philosophy, literature, and politics continue late into the night. The soul of the empire still beats, but the body is growing frail. The Balkan problem. In the 18th and 19th centuries, nationalism begins to stir in the Balkans. Inspired by European ideas of independence, Greeks, Serbs, Bulgarians, and others begin to rebel. The Ottomans, already weakened, struggle to suppress these uprisings without further draining their resources. European powers exploit the unrest, supporting rebellions to chip away at Ottoman territory. By the mid-19th century, the Saltanat-e-Usmania is no longer the unstoppable force it once was. It is called the sick man of Europe by rival powers, a name meant to signal its declining influence. But in the hearts of its people, the memory of past glory still burns. The question remains, can the empire reform and rise again, or is the sunset inevitable? Visual suggestion: slow fade from an illuminated crescent moon over Istanbul to the same crescent obscured by storm clouds. Section 4. The Sunset and the Legacy. The 19th century. For centuries, the Saltanat-e-Usmania had been a bridge between continents, a guardian of trade, and a beacon of Islamic civilization. But now, the empire stands at a crossroads. Its past is glorious, its present uncertain, and its future hanging by a thread. Visual suggestion: golden light over Istanbul's skyline slowly fading into dusk. The Tanzimat reforms, a last attempt to modernize. Recognizing the dangers of stagnation, the Ottoman leadership begins the Tanzimat era, 1839 to 1876, a bold set of reforms to save the empire. New secular laws are introduced alongside Sharia. Modern schools and military academies are established. European-style uniforms and military drills are adopted. Railways and telegraph lines begin to connect distant provinces. The goal is clear: to modernize without losing the empire's Islamic identity. But change comes too slowly, and resistance from conservatives and entrenched elites weakens the reforms. The rise of nationalism and internal revolts. By the mid-19th century, nationalist movements spread like wildfire. Greece gains independence in 1830. Serbia, Romania, and Bulgaria push for autonomy. Arab, Armenian, and Albanian uprisings follow. Each revolt chips away at the empire's unity. European powers often encourage these movements, seeking to weaken the Ottomans and take their territories. The Eastern Question and European intrigue. The empire's decline becomes a topic of global politics, known as the Eastern Question. What will happen to Ottoman lands if the empire collapses? Britain, France, Russia, and Austria all have their plans. Wars erupt, not just over borders, but over influence. The Crimean War, 1853 to 1856, sees the Ottomans allied with Britain and France against Russia. The Russo-Turkish War, 1877 to 1878, results in massive territorial losses in the Balkans. The Ottomans find themselves caught in a deadly game between great powers. The Young Turk movement. At the dawn of the 20th century, reformist groups known as the Young Turks push for constitutional government, modernization, and national unity. In 1908, they forced Sultan Abdul Hamid II to restore the constitution, bringing hopes of revival. But political instability, factionalism, and the challenges of a multi-ethnic empire make it difficult to govern effectively. World War I. The final blow. In 1914, the empire enters World War I on the side of Germany and Austria-Hungary, hoping to regain lost territories. At first, Ottoman forces achieve stunning victories, most famously at Gallipoli, where they repel the Allied invasion under the leadership of Mustafa Kemal. But on other fronts, in Arabia, Mesopotamia, and Palestine, the empire suffers crushing defeats. The Arab Revolt, supported by the British, tears away much of the empire's Middle Eastern territory. By 1918, the war is lost. Allied troops occupy Istanbul. The Ottoman government signs the Armistice of Mudros, ending its role in the conflict. The abolition of the Sultanate. In the aftermath of the war, the Treaty of Sèvres, 1920, seeks to dismantle the empire entirely. But resistance movements, led by Mustafa Kemal, fight back, eventually establishing the Republic of Turkey in 1923. On November 1, 1922, the Ottoman Sultanate is officially abolished. Sultan Mehmed VI departs Istanbul aboard a British warship, the last ruler of a dynasty that had endured for over 600 years. The caliphate lingers briefly under Abdülmecid II, but is abolished in 1924, marking the final end of Ottoman authority. Visual suggestion: a slow pan across the empty throne room of Topkapi Palace, dust motes in the sunlight. The legacy of the Saltanat-e-Usmania. Though the empire is gone, its influence is everywhere. 1. Architecture and urban beauty. The skyline of Istanbul, with Hagia Sophia, Blue Mosque, and Süleymaniyye Mosque, remains a living testament to Ottoman artistry. Bridges, aqueducts, caravanserais, and palaces still stand across 3 continents. 2. Cultural influence. Ottoman cuisine, from baklava to kebabs, has crossed borders and centuries. Languages and dialects still carry Ottoman Turkish words in the Balkans, Middle East, and North Africa. Calligraphy, tilework, and music traditions endure in modern art. 3. Governance lessons. The millet system inspired later models of multicultural governance. Ottoman legal reforms influenced the modern legal codes of several successor states. 4. Historical inspiration. The story of the Ottoman rise, zenith, and fall continues to inspire writers, filmmakers, and historians worldwide. Reflections on rise and fall. The Saltanat-e-Usmania was not perfect. It had its moments of injustice and cruelty, alongside its eras of tolerance and wisdom. It was an empire of contradictions, of sultans who ruled with vision and others who squandered power, of warriors who fought for justice and armies that rebelled against their own state. Its greatest strength lay in its ability to unite vast lands under a single banner, guided by a belief in justice, faith, and order. Its downfall came when internal decay met the unstoppable forces of change in the modern world. From a small beylik in Anatolia, Osman's dream grew into a mighty empire that shaped the fate of nations. For 6 centuries, it stood as a guardian of trade, a builder of cities, a patron of art, and a force in world politics. And though its crescent flag no longer waves over its vast domains, the spirit of the Saltanat-e-Usmania lives on, in the stones of its mosques, the flavors of its kitchens, and the memories of its people. The empire is gone, but its story will be told for centuries more. Visual suggestion: final montage, sunrise over the Bosphorus, the call to prayer echoing, then fade to black with the words, Saltanat-e-Usmania, 1299 to 1922. Moral of story: strength is born from unity, justice, and vision, but it survives only through adaptation and wisdom. No power, no matter how great, lasts forever unless it continues to evolve with the times. The rise and fall of the Saltanat-e-Usmania remind us that leadership rooted in fairness can build empires, while complacency and division can bring even the mightiest to their knees.